Now for our story. Aunt Mary and her old friend, Dell Shipley, sat in the living room of Aunt Mary's little farmhouse on Willow Road. Dell had arrived a short while ago, having driven down with Lily Devon, a young entertainer who worked in her Chicago nightclub. Lily was very anxious to see Peggy Douglas, Aunt Mary's niece, who had roomed with Lily when she lived in Chicago some time ago. But Peggy was in town when Dell and Lily arrived at the farm, and knowing that Aunt Mary and Dell had a lot to talk about, Lily had decided to go outside and walk around. Now, after Lily's footsteps have receded outside, Aunt Mary turns to Dell.
I'm so glad you brought Lily down with you, Dell. I'm very fond of that girl.
Yeah, she's a good kid.
So attractive, too, with that blonde hair, her lovely complexion.
Yes, Lily has the looks all right.
And she's just as good as gold inside, too. I've never forgotten how she looked after Peggy during all that excitement in Chicago last year.
Yeah, Lily loves to cluck over someone. I've often thought it's a darn shame that girl never had a family of her own.
Well, she's young. Maybe she will have someday.
Honey.
Tired, Dell? You must be after your trip down.
No, it isn't that, Mary. Being here in this house again. I mean, it's swell seeing you. It sure does bring back memories.
I hope they're not all unhappy ones, Dell.
No. But it does seem sort of to get me by the throat. I keep looking over my shoulder, expecting.
Lefty?
Yeah. Wish to goodness I could get that no-account, stubborn old so-and-so out of the system. It's ridiculous the way I moon over him like a girl 15 with her first beau. I can't seem to stop. How is he, Mary?
Lefty's a fine dad. You know how he is. He goes along on a fairly even keel, unless something happens to Riley.
Yeah, and I'll bet he's riled today with Lily and me showing up here. If I know him, he howled like a banshee when you told him we were coming.
You know him pretty well, I'm afraid. But I've always had the feeling he'll gradually come to his senses. Realize he's wrong to hold this grudge against you the way he has all this time.
Oh, I don't know, Mary. I wouldn't want to bank on it. If I had the sense the good Lord gave me, I'd forget all about him. Being here like this, you know, kind of brings the whole thing back.
Well, of course it does. That's natural enough. But I hope it isn't going to spoil your visit.
Well, I won't let it, Mary. Come on, let's talk about something else. I ought to be ashamed of myself anyway. An old gal like me weeping all over your shoulder. Besides, there are lots of more important things to talk about now that we're together.
I hardly know where to begin. Well, first of all, I've been so anxious to know about Lisa.
Oh, yeah, Lisa. You were right about that girl, Mary. You hit it right on the nose.
What do you mean, Dad?
About this husband of hers, Lance. Remember you told me as far as you could figure Lisa was still in love with him?
Yes. From everything she said, reading between the lines, I was pretty sure.
Well, she's in love with him, all right. You see, it was like this. Lily got wind of the fact that he was coming around to the club every night to watch Lisa dance. So, you know Lily. She never lets the grass grow under her feet when she's on the trail of something. She buzzes right up to the guy and gets to talking with him.
Good for Lily. By the way, what sort of a man is he? Lisa never said a great deal.
According to Lily, he's okay.
Oh, that's good. I was sure he must be basically, even though he... Well, you know about their marriage.
Yeah, but he knows he made some terrible blunders. Well, anyway, Lily sort of pumped him and found out he was still very much in love with Lisa. So Lily gave him their address and arranged for him to go to see her.
Oh, Dell, I'm so glad. That's just what I'd hoped, that we could somehow get those two young people back together.
Now, wait a minute, Mary. I haven't finished.
Oh? Well, what happened then, Dell?
Lisa gave him the brush off.
What? You mean they weren't reconciled after all?
I'll say they weren't. The kid evidently told him she was through with him, completely washed up.
Well, I don't understand it. Well, I'm just as sure as I'm sitting here that Lisa does love Lance.
Yeah, and you're right, too. But the point is, she didn't let him know it.
But why on earth would she...
Well, that's just what I'm coming to. I understand why now. You see, Lisa finally told me the whole story. And I only wish, Mary, that it had been you she told it to instead of me.
Why do you say that, dear? It doesn't matter which of us she confided in, just so long as we can see a way to help her.
That's just the trouble.
I'm damned if I can feel well. Oh, dear. Surely it can't be that bad. It can't be hopeless.
Well, I don't know. All I do know is that girl wasn't kidding when she said she was in trouble. Her life really is in a bad mess. And it's no wonder she was trying so hard to keep it under her hat. It's not the sort of story a person wants to give out.
That sounds rather ominous. Well, I can't imagine what it could be, dear.
But, I only wish I could tell you, Mary. That's what has me going around the circle. I can't. I promised Lisa I wouldn't tell a soul, and you know me, when I make a promise, I keep it.
Well, of course you do.
And you should, Dale. That's why I said it should have been you she told it to. Maybe you could figure a way out where I can't. Of course, it isn't as if her life can't be patched up some way. She can still make a career for herself. But I'm afraid this thing will always hang over our heads. And of course it means she'll never get together with her husband. So she can't face him. Can't tell him the truth.
And what do you think about that, Dale? Now that you know the story, do you think she's right to feel that way?
Well, Mary, I almost think she is. She really has something on her conscience. And you can't always tell how a guy's going to take a thing like that. You might get pretty sore about it. You'd be justified if you did.
I confess I'm very disappointed, Dale. I had so hoped that...
I know, Mary. I wish I could have brought down better news.
No, you mustn't feel that way, Dale. You've done the best you could. And if you're sure there's nothing to be done, why...
One thing that puzzled me, though.
What's that?
Well, it seems to me when I talked to you on the phone once, you said you had a sort of hunch about this thing that's troubling Lisa.
Oh, yes.
You seemed to feel it was tied up some way with something here in Wakefield.
That's right. I had a notion it would be. Now, of course, it's hard for me to say, since you can't give me a clue as to what Lisa told you.
Darn it, Mary. I'd give anything to be able to dump the whole thing in your lap. Not only because I'd rather not have the responsibility myself either, but you're so good at straightening people out, and I'm such a dope when I try to ask why.
Oh, no, you're not, Dale. I do wish you could tell me one thing, though.
Here, Mary, what is it?
Well, from what Lisa told you, can you see any way she could be linked to anything here in Wakefield? I mean, even indirectly? Because if I could just get that one little piece that's missing, I have an idea I could solve something that's been puzzling me. What do you think, Dale?
I'm sorry, Mary. The way it looks to me, I don't see how Lisa's story could have any connection whatsoever with anything around here.
I see. Well, you must be right, Dale. You probably know. I guess this is one time when my feminine intuition failed me.
But if only you realize that, Mary, you are right, and Dell Shipley is wrong. Lisa Fenner's tragic story, which is known only to Dell, is linked to the events which have taken place in Wakefield. Lisa's visit to Kit Meade, the child which stands between Bill Meade and Peggy Douglas, your niece, the child whose resemblance to Lisa struck you so strangely. These things are all tied together. If only you verify the connection which links Lisa's life to that of Kit Meade and the child she brought back from California, the problems of Peggy and Bill Meade would be solved. But now it appears that this will never happen. But I wonder, will Dell tell Aunt Mary Lisa's story after all? Now for our story. It was the afternoon of Dell Shipley's arrival at the Lane farm from Chicago with Lily Devon, who worked as an entertainer in Dell's nightclub. After the first excited greetings, Lily had wandered outside to leave Aunt Mary and Dell free to talk things over, which they had promptly begun to do. Aunt Mary was particularly anxious to hear about Lisa Fenner, the young dancer she'd sent to Dell in Chicago. She had a feeling that Lisa's troubles were connected with Wakefield in some way, and wondered if Dell had any news to add. And so she'd been quite disappointed when Dell Shipley said,
I'm sorry, Mary, but the way it looks to me, I don't see how Lisa's story could have any connection whatsoever with anything around here.
I see. Well, you're probably right, Dell. You'd know by now. I guess this is one time my feminine intuition failed me. I did have such a strong feeling about it.
Oh, don't take it too much to heart, Mary. Besides, you're right 99 times out of 100.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, Bill.
I wish I could feel that Lisa Fenner's trouble had something to do with Wakefield. But it hasn't, I'm sure of it.
God, sometimes it's so hard to get an idea like that out of your mind. But I suppose there's no use talking about it anymore, Dell. Since you're sure.
Mary, when we talked on the telephone the last few times, you seemed to have something else on your mind. I mean, besides this about Lisa Fenner.
I did, Dell. It's an idea I've been developing for some time. I thought you might be able or willing to help me out on it.
Oh, tell me. I'm always interested in your scheme.
Yes, I know you are, Dell. That's why I'm coming to you with it. It's about the young people here in Wakefield. We've been having quite a problem with them.
You have? How come, Mary?
Well, you see, Dell, those youngsters have no place to go. I mean to dance and have a little fun. A place where they can get together with young people their own age.
I thought the high school threw dances and affairs for the kids.
Oh, they do. Every so often. But that's not enough. Why, there are weeks and weeks when nothing particular goes on to interest the teenagers. And there's no place for them to go. And that's why they're so worried.
So what do they do with themselves? They must go somewhere.
That's the trouble. They've been going to these roadhouses outside of town. We have several of them scattered around.
I see. And I guess you feel those places are hardly the thing for kids that age. A lot of drinking and...
That's just it, Bill. They aren't good for the youngsters. And yet, you can't blame them. They want to dance and have a good time. And if we don't provide the sort of place they should have, it's our responsibility.
Sure. It's too bad. If you could get something started right here in Wakefield...
That was exactly my idea. And that's where you come in, Dell.
Me?
You've had so much experience with things like that. You know just how to get such a place started. How to arrange everything.
Well, yeah, I know all that stuff, but...
Well, I might as well come out with it, Dell. I know how you talked about being tired of the nightclub business in Chicago, and what I hoped was that you'd consider helping us get underway. Establish a place for the young people which would be the right kind. We could have music, jukebox maybe. That's what you call them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe a soft drink bar. Oh, it would be wonderful, Dell. And you're just the right person. It would be a good chance for you, too, and a change. Running that nightclub of yours is such a responsibility. This might seem almost like a vacation.
Yeah. I admit I've complained about being fed up. I do get tired, what with all the pressure of things there in Chicago.
I know. And it would be good for you to get away. I've talked to the manager of the hotel here. He's willing to turn over this big banquet hall. It would be just the thing, with a little renovating.
Oh, I'm sure all that could be worked out. But even so, Mary, well, I'm a businesswoman, you know. I don't see where the money would come from with a spot like that. You don't want to charge the kids very much. You can't.
Oh, no, of course not.
Oh, I have to think of that side of it, too, you know. I've got a living to make. Worse luck.
I realize that, Dell. Well, perhaps I'm not very practical about these things, but I thought there might be some way.
You see, well, there'd be quite a lot of overhead. You couldn't expect the kids to be satisfied with just a jukebox. That wouldn't keep them away from the roadhouses. They want a real hot swing orchestra.
Well, couldn't one be brought down from the city? At least for weekends?
Oh, sure, but there goes your expense again. That costs money. Anyway, Mary, the main reason I'm afraid I can't go in with you on the scheme is something else. You can probably guess.
You mean Lefty? How he'd feel having you here?
Yeah.
That's another reason I thought this would be a good idea, dear.
Why, Mary...
Now, don't you think if you were here...
Oh, he might change, Mary, but I wonder if he ever will. I doubt it. Bless you for being so concerned, but... Well, I don't think there's much point telling about it. I wish I could feel free to help you out on your idea, but I don't see how.
Well, I understand your viewpoint. Anyway, Dell, will you do this much at least? Will you look this room at the Brown Palace Hotel over? See if it has any possibilities? And will you think the whole idea over before you definitely turn it down?
Sure I will, Mary. I'll be glad to do that for you. Hello,
Hello, Dell.
Hello, Peggy. You're looking wonderful, dear.
Oh, thanks. Did you have a nice trip down? Sorry, I wasn't here to welcome you, but I had some errands in town that I just had to do.
Well, that's okay. I didn't expect a brass band, you know. Peggy, we have a nice surprise for you.
A surprise? What is it, Aunt Mary?
Well, I know you'll be pleased. Dell brought Lily down with her.
Lily? Where is she, Aunt Mary?
She's outside somewhere.
Oh,
dear.
wonderful. Excuse me, Dell. I'll see you later. Lily! Oh, there you are.
Hi, Peggy.
I saw you drive in. Oh, Lily, this is a wonderful surprise for me. Oh, golly, it's been ages, hasn't it?
Yeah, it sure has. Kid, I'm glad to see you.
Oh, Lily, you're looking swell. More beautiful than ever. Let's sit down here on the steps, shall we? Or we can go up to my room if you'd rather.
Oh, this is fine. I'm turning into a regular fresh air fiend. Oh, sugar, you look terrific.
Do I?
Yeah. You turned into quite a gal.
Oh, it's probably just the contrast. Last time I saw you, I wasn't feeling any too cheerful.
Well, you seem to have come through okay, kid.
Oh, I guess a person can get over practically anything if he really wants to. That reminds me, Lily. How's Lisa?
Lisa? Well, she's not exactly flying.
You mean she still as unhappy as she was?
Well, she's not going to win any prizes for Chicago's happiest girl.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, I hoped that when she got back to working, she'd feel better.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'll say this much. Lisa really tried to make a go of it. Especially for Aunt Mary's sake.
You sound as if you don't think she's succeeded.
Well, she's lots better than she was at first.
I wonder if she ever saw her husband. She used to talk about him quite a lot. Lance Benner, his name is.
Yeah. She saw him.
She did? Well, what happened?
Oh, let's not talk about Lisa now. It's a long story. And anyway, I'm much more interested in what's been happening to you.
Well, I have some rather important news. At least it's important to me.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to me, too.
I don't know whether it'll surprise you or not, but, well, at least I'm going to be married.
Peggy. Well, that's wonderful. I'm awfully glad for you.
Thanks, Lily.
So Bill Meade finally got his divorce.
But, Lily, I'm not... Bill's not the one I'm going to marry.
He's not? Well, then who are you?
I'm going to marry Nicholas Stone.
Nicholas Stone? Oh, yes. Lisa mentioned something about a writer named Dorn, but I didn't take it seriously.
Just the same, it is serious. Because I'm going to marry Nicholas very soon.
Aunt Mary came to the front door then, summoned the girls in for a cup of tea, so the subject of Peggy's wedding was dropped for the time being. But both of them knew there was much more to be said whenever the opportunity came. What had happened to Peggy, Lily wondered. She felt sure her friend was still in love with Bill Meade, and, well, if she did love him, why was she planning to marry someone else? Well, she'd find out the next time they talked. Now for our story. It was after dinner at the Lane farm, a dinner which had been quite festive this evening in honor of guests from Chicago. Dell Shipley, Aunt Mary's friend, and Lily Devon, an entertainer in Dell's nightclub, who was such a good friend of Peggy Douglas, Aunt Mary's niece. Now the two girls are in the kitchen having shooed Aunt Mary out into the living room to chat with Dell while they wash up the dishes.
Where do you keep the dish towels, Peggy?
In that drawer on the right, Lily.
Okay. Aunt Mary certainly knows how to make fried chicken. If I lived out here, I'd have to worry about my calories.
Well, on the other hand, you get a lot more exercise living on a farm.
Maybe so, if you could stay awake.
I've been sleepy ever since we got here. Oh, that's just a change of air. Same thing happens to me when I go somewhere for a vacation.
Well, it could be that it's so quiet. In the city, the only time it's ever this quiet is about 4 o'clock in the morning. And then, you know, it's time to be sleepy.
That's so. But you're such a night owl anyway.
I guess I am. You get used to funny hours in show business.
You like it, though, don't you?
Well,
I mean, you probably wouldn't be happy in any other sort of life.
Oh, I don't know, Peggy. Sometimes I think I'd like to get out of it entirely. When you told me about being engaged, I got to thinking that...
Oh, Why don't you get married, Lily? Maybe you'd be lots happier.
Well, it isn't as simple as that, sugar. You don't just decide to get married and then, boom, you are. There's a little matter of being in love, you know.
Oh, of course.
Peggy,
Yes?
this afternoon when you told me you were going to get married, we didn't have much chance to talk about it.
Well, there's not much to say, Lily. Except that Nicholas is a very nice man.
Well, you know how I am, Peggy. I don't believe in beating around the bush. So I'll come right out with it.
All right, go ahead.
What about Bill, Peggy?
What do you mean, what about him?
Well, you're marrying Nicholas Dorn. Does that mean that you and Bill...
Bill and I are good friends, Lily. But, well, he has his own life. And I have to have mine. Well, I'll admit lots of people don't approve of my marrying Nicholas. But I'm sure I'm doing the right thing. And well, that's all that matters, isn't it?
Yes, I guess so.
You'll like Nick, Lily. He's a very fine person.
It must be, or you wouldn't be sold on him.
So while you're here, maybe you and Randy and Nick and I could double date. Randy's wonderful. Of course, I'm prejudiced, but don't you like him?
Sure.
You say that as if you're just being polite.
Well, Peggy, well, the fact is, somehow I'm not so sure your cousin approves of me.
Oh, you're crazy. Lily, you mustn't think that. Gee, I want you to have a good time while you're here.
Don't worry about me, sweetie. It's enough for me seeing you again. I only hope Dell gets a good rest. He's the one I'm worried about.
She does seem a little tired, Lily. Sort of nervous.
Yeah. Did you notice the way she kept looking around during dinner, as if she was expecting something?
Yes.
But didn't you guess what was eating her?
Well, I suppose it was because Lefty didn't turn up for dinner.
Oh, you're right. Oh, poor Dell. I feel sorry for her.
So do I.
She can't get Lefty out of her mind. And I don't think it'll ever do her any good.
Oh, it's strange the way Lefty acts about Dell. He's always been kind of stubborn, but I've never known him to hold a grudge for such a long time.
Oh, sugar, it's a long story.
You mean you understand why Lefty feels the way he does about Dell? Why he won't forgive her for whatever he thinks she did?
I think I do.
Well, I wish you'd tell me then.
I can't tell you, Peggy. But Lefty has a reason. Maybe you'll understand it someday.
Lily Devon couldn't tell Peggy the truth. That it was Peggy herself who stood between Lefty Larkin, her father, and Dell Shipley, the woman who loved him. Because Peggy didn't know Lefty was her father. In another room at that same moment, Aunt Mary and Dell were occupied with the same problem. The problem of Lefty's stubborn attitude.
I did so hope Lefty would turn up for dinner tonight, Dale. I'm terribly sorry he didn't.
Oh, I hope so too, Mary. But I didn't really think he would.
If only there were some way that...
So do I. But I'm afraid it's hopeless, Mary. There are things about my relationship with Lefty, I've never told you. I couldn't. But if you knew, well, you'd see just what a tough proposition I'm up against.
I've always realized there must be some very deep reason. Something which happened between you two to cause such a terrible misunderstanding. But even so, if two people have loved each other, they should overcome their differences somehow.
That's the way it ought to turn out. But we're both old enough to know things don't always turn out the way they ought to.
I don't know about that, Dale.
Perhaps I'm the eternal optimist.
I can't help thinking things do turn out for the best. If a person does what he knows to be right and has patience enough to wait.
I've waited an awful long time for Lefty to come to his senses. And the way it looks now, I'm afraid he never will.
Dale, I've an idea.
Yeah?
Well, I've been wondering about that plan we talked over this afternoon.
Yes, Mary?
As I told you, it seems to me you're just the right person to get that sort of place underway. A place where the young people could go. And there ought to be some way to make it practical financially.
Perhaps.
Well, maybe if you were around...
it might change Lefty's whole attitude.
I kind of doubt that, Mary. It would just make us both miserable.
It might be worth a try.
Don't tempt me, Mary. I'll admit there are a lot of possibilities in this scheme of yours, but... Oh, I don't know. If I could believe the way you do, that my being around all the time might gradually wear him down to the point of being willing to forgive and forget, well, that would be a different story.
Perhaps if you talk to him, Dell.
Talk to him. You know how much chance there is of that. Why, he hasn't shown his face around here since I arrived. He probably won't either until we leave.
Well, I won't try to persuade you, Dell. You'll have to do what seems best to you. I am unhappy about it, though, for all our sakes. And especially for yours.
Dell Shipley sighed heavily, lapsed into a long silence, which her old friend, Mary Lane, understood only too well. Dell was thinking,
Oh, it is a temptation. As Mary says, maybe Lefty would change his mind. Be willing to forget the past. Eventually. Maybe he'd get used to seeing me around once the ice was broken. Oh, it wouldn't be fair to make a move like that without talking to him, giving him fair warning. And I can't go to him. He's made it so plain he just doesn't want to see me. Look at the way he didn't even come to dinner. Hasn't shown up all day. That ought to be answer enough, and yet... Oh, what's the use of thinking about it? I know I haven't the nerve to go to Lefty with a proposition like that, even if I did decide to work with Mary on this scheme of hers. If he doesn't want to see me, who am I to go busting in on him? No, I'd better forget the whole thing. Well, it just won't work. Lefty's life and mine are, well, they're completely separate. And that's the way they're going to be from now on. I might as well face it.
but Dell Shipley was wrong. There was an inevitable connection between her life and that of Lefty Larkin, the man she loved. And that connection was Peggy Douglas, Lefty's daughter. Peggy, who has always stood between Dell and Lefty. And now Dell is to learn that only she can protect Peggy from making a terrible mistake, create an unhappiness for herself which would affect Lefty, too.